We are the most self-sufficient generation in history. We can earn alone, live alone, and build entire identities without depending on a single person. That sounds like progress. But somewhere inside that freedom, something quietly broke, and most of us are too independent to even admit it. Think about the messages you absorbed growing up. Be independent, do not rely on others, handle your own problems. These are not bad lessons on their own, but somewhere along the way, they stopped being survival skills and became a complete identity. Needing someone became something to be ashamed of. Sociologist Robert Putnam documented this shift in his landmark book, Bowling Alone. He tracked how Americans dismantled their communal structures decade by decade. Civic groups collapsed, neighborhood ties weakened, the shared safety nets that once held communities together were quietly replaced by individual self-reliance. We did not just lose community structures. We internalized the replacement. The market offered a substitute for every human bond, an app for food, a service for cleaning, a subscription for companionship. Slowly, we stopped practicing the art of depending on people. And that practice is what intimacy requires. Here is the trap. Every time you successfully handle something alone, your brain logs that as evidence that you do not need others. It feels like strength, and in many cases, it is. But applied to relationships, that logic becomes quietly destructive. You start measuring your partner by how little you need them. This is not a personal flaw. It is a trained response. The economy rewards individual output. Social media rewards personal branding. Success culture rewards solo achievement. Everything in the modern environment is calibrated to make you better at being alone. Relationships operate on entirely different logic, and nobody told you. There is a phrase worth sitting with, a partner as a lifestyle accessory. It sounds harsh, but think about how many modern relationships are quietly structured this way. Someone who fits your schedule, enhances your image, does not complicate your goals. Convenient, optional, replaceable if the fit stops working. Sherry Turkle explored this in her research on technology and connection. In Alone Together, she observed that people increasingly want relationships that are rich in engagement but low in demand. We want intimacy without vulnerability, connection without inconvenience. That is not a relationship, that is a subscription service. Real relationships require something that hyper-independence finds genuinely threatening: compromise. Not the small kind, like which restaurant to pick, the structural kind. Adjusting your life plans because another person matters, slowing down your trajectory because the relationship needs tending. That feels like loss to someone wired for autonomy. And here's where it gets psychologically interesting. When you have been rewarded for protecting your autonomy, any demand from a partner registers as a threat, not because the demand is unreasonable, but because your nervous system has been trained to treat dependency as danger. The relationship is fine. Your wiring is the problem. This creates a particular kind of modern loneliness. You are technically in a relationship, but you have unconsciously structured it to require as little mutual need as possible. Both people maintain separate finances, separate social lives, separate goals. The relationship exists alongside your life rather than inside it, and that distance compounds silently. The accessory relationship is not loveless. That is the tricky part. You can genuinely care about someone and still treat them as peripheral. You just refuse to let them be necessary. And necessity in the right relationship is not weakness. It is the whole point. It is what makes the bond real. There's a moment that many highly independent people recognize but rarely name. The moment when a relationship starts to feel less like a gift and more like a risk. When getting closer feels like handing someone the power to derail you. When love starts to look like a liability on your personal balance sheet. This is not cynicism. It is a rational output of an irrational system. When your entire identity is built around self-sufficiency, intimacy genuinely does threaten your structure. Because intimacy requires letting someone else influence your decisions, your time, your emotional state. And that is exactly what the independent identity was designed to prevent. The result is a pattern psychologists sometimes describe as dismissive avoidance. You value connection in theory, you just consistently behave in ways that keep it at arm's length. You stay busy, you keep options open, you resist labels, you avoid the conversations that would make things real. All of it looks like freedom. None of it is. And when a relationship ends, the hyper-independent person often recovers quickly, almost too quickly, and they frame that fast recovery as resilience. But sometimes it is not resilience at all. Sometimes it is confirmation that the relationship was never allowed to become essential. You did not lose much because you never let them be much. The economy of modern life also punishes relationship investment in very real ways. Career opportunities require mobility, promotions require full commitment, building wealth requires focused individual effort. Every hour spent maintaining a relationship is an hour not spent on personal advancement. The system does not account for love. It never did. So people do the math. Consciously or not, they calculate the opportunity cost of deep commitment. And for a growing number of people, especially in their 20s and 30s, the calculation keeps coming back the same way. Full autonomy wins, not because they do not want love, because the structure makes love look expensive. Here is the uncomfortable truth this whole conversation is building toward. Deep connection is not compatible with total autonomy, not because love requires you to disappear into another person, but because real intimacy requires genuine mutual dependency. Not neediness, dependency. There is a meaningful difference, and most people have lost track of it. Neediness is anxious and consuming. It demands constant reassurance. Healthy dependency is something entirely different. It means you genuinely factor another person into your life. Their well-being affects yours. Their presence shapes your decisions. You are not whole without them in some meaningful way. That interdependence is not weakness. It is the architecture of lasting love. The practical shift starts with how you frame compromise. Right now, if you are wired for independence, compromise probably feels like subtraction. You give something up, you lose ground, reframe it. Compromise in a relationship is a form of building. You are constructing something together that neither person could construct alone. That is addition, not loss. One practical tool worth exploring is the concept of deliberate vulnerability, outlined in Brené Brown's work on connection. It means consciously practicing disclosure and reliance in small doses, not a grand emotional collapse, but intentional moments where you let someone help you, know you, or influence you. That practice rewires the association between need and threat. The bigger cultural shift requires something harder, recognizing that the freedom modern life promises is often a substitution, not an upgrade. You traded communal safety nets and deep bonds for the ability to optimize your individual life. That trade felt worth it. But look around at the data on loneliness, depression, and relationship failure rates. The bill is coming due. Freedom is not the problem. Weaponized freedom is the version sold to you by a culture that profits from your self-sufficiency, the version that turns every relationship into a consumer decision, that turns partners into options, that makes commitment look like a trap. Real freedom includes the freedom to choose dependency, and that choice takes genuine courage. So the question is not whether you are capable of independence. You clearly are. The question is whether you are brave enough to let someone be necessary to you, whether you can build a life that is genuinely shared rather than just adjacent. That shift does not make you weaker. It makes the whole structure stronger. Modern freedom is a gift with a hidden cost. The cost is the depth of your relationships. The good news is that this is not a life sentence. Awareness is the first move. If this video shifted something for you, subscribe for more content like this and share it with someone who needs to hear it. See you in the next one.